Can you build a successful gym just running group classes? Absolutely. Can you build a successful gym just doing one-on-one personal training? Absolutely. Can you run a successful gym somewhere in the middle? Of course you can. I'm Chris Cooper. This is Run a Profitable Gym. And today I want to show you some sample business models that actually work. Now, there are really infinite business models that can work. And at Two Brain, we're a mentorship practice. We don't exist to force one model on you. We want you to build a gym that you love to run. What a mentor is going to do is help you actually understand your metrics so you don't fall prey to the people out there telling you that if you just have 300 members, you're good, or if you just do 50 members at semi-private, you're good. The reality is that you need to know your own metrics and you need to build a plan based off those metrics to be successful. That's what a mentor does with you. And one of the tools we use to do that is a profit and loss statement, a P&L. I'm going to show you one now. If you're not used to looking at financial documents, don't worry. It's really quick to be able to understand how this works, and I'll be talking you through it slowly. My goal is to show you that almost any model can work if you have the right number of members, paying the right membership rate, and you're keeping them long enough and keeping your expenses in control. I'm not here to tell you that the big group model is dead or the big group model is the winner. I'm definitely not here to tell you that one-on-one training is the answer or that you need to go all in on something else. What I am here to tell you is that you need to understand your numbers if you want to have control of your business and not fall prey to the people out there that want to sell you their model. This is a model profit and loss statement, and we share this with everybody in Two Brain, and mentors work to help gym owners understand this so that they can control their business forever. It's a standard accounting document. Your bookkeeper prepares this for you if you haven't seen it yourself. Your accountant needs to look at this at the end of the year, and it's a very important tool. When gyms come into Two Brain, quite often, here's what we find. Now, I'm going to use some basic averages that we've taken from our state of the industry data set. Every year, we collect data from thousands of gyms around the world. We compile that into a big report for you called the State of the Industry, and we just give it away for free. But what you do with that data is what's most important. And so what you do with it is you use that to build a more successful gym model for you. I'm going to give you a few examples of these. I'm going to show you what a few different clients at Two Brain have done. I'm going to start with their goal. Each one, in each case, their goal is to make $100,000 net owner benefit from their gym. That's what their gym pays them. They might take that as a salary. They might take that as profit, whatever. That's how much their gym pays them every year. That is the sign of a sustainable gym. It's not how many members you have. It's not how many coaches you employ. It's not whether you've got a 30-year lease or not. Your gym is sustainable if it is profitable. If you have a tiny little bit of profit, that's not sustainable. Break even is not sustainable. You need to be able to make a good living and have your gym be anti-fragile enough that if something happens, like the rent goes up, it always does, or some unforeseen expense happens, a client smashes your glass door by accident, that always happens, you're not going to go out of business. If a coach leaves to open up their own gym and takes 10 clients, you're not going to go out of business. If, some other unforeseen thing happens, you can survive it. That's what we're after here. I also want you as a gym owner to be rewarded for the risk that you've taken, for the service that you've dedicated yourself to, and the lives that you've changed. And that's why we start off by giving you a goal of making $100,000 a year from your gym. You deserve it. Let's start with this. So this is your basic P&L. First, from the State of the Industry data, we know that the average micro gym has about 122 clients, paying on average about $119 a month. That's their kind of average rate. We know that they run about 32 classes a month, and they pay a coach about $22 an hour to run a class. Now, you can download our free guide, 5 Ways to Earn $100,000 from Your Gym, and you can see these broken down for you. And if you have your own P&L, you can play around with these numbers to fill it in for yourself. What this leads to, though, this model is about $14,000 in monthly revenue, okay? Then, if we break down your expenses, you'll see here's what's going out the door. Here's what the staff is earning, not very much. And at the bottom here is net owner benefit, what the owner is actually keeping from the gym every year. Coaching fitness, doing what you love, saving lives, and making $28,000 a year. Hey, when you're 22 years old, unmarried and willing to sleep on a couch at the gym, dream come true. But eventually, you are going to want to have a family. You're going to want to build a gym that's resilient to all those problems that I mentioned earlier. You're going to want to employ people. You're going to want to make sure that you stick around and that you can weather the storms. And so we actually want you making more than that. So, when the average gym comes into Two Brain, sometimes they're making $0. Sometimes they're losing money even. Sometimes they're making $100,000 already and they want to think about how they can grow. So the levers that I'm going to show you can work for all of these gyms, and we can build a model around what you want to build. The most common model that's out there right now is, like we want to run a big group model. So when we talk to CrossFit gyms, when we talk to HIIT gyms, when we talk to boot camps, even some franchises, often they come into Two Brain saying, we just need more clients or we just need more leads. Well, let's look at how that affects your model. As you add more clients, and let's say that you can bring this client headcount up to 200, that's amazing. Congrats. Like that's a massive leap in clients, especially with a retention rate of 95%. That means that you're gaining 10 new clients a month because you are still losing about 5. It means that you're going to have to add some classes. You're going to have to add some more expenses. If you double the number of clients you have, yes, you're going to fill the classes that aren't full right now, but you're also going to have to add more. So let's just bring this up by 50%, even though we nearly doubled the amount of clients that we have. So that brings us to about 48 classes a week. And then what that's going to do is just add some coaching expenses, okay? Now, hopefully you can do that without expanding your location. But the reality is going from 119 clients to 200 might mean that you take on extra expenses here too. But let's just say that your marketing costs stay the same, your lease stays the same, your coaches are still getting paid $22 a class. And we go to the bottom here and we say, look at that. You've got a net owner benefit of $113,746, okay? Can you do it with 200 members? Yeah, of course you can, right? The challenge there is that your payroll is going to go up. Probably your expenses are going to go up, right? You're going to need more space. You're going to need more equipment. So let's factor those things in. First of all, if you're a CrossFit gym, this affiliation number has just gone up. So we need to add that. Second, if you've got more clients, you're going to need more cleaning. That's going to go up. Your insurance is probably going to be going up from this as you add clients. To get those clients, you probably have to do some marketing. I'm going to say that we'll just keep this constant for now. But the reality is that if you're not getting new clients in now and you want to get more clients, you're going to have to spend more time, attention, and money on marketing. These other things, you can change them as you want to. But let's say that you add more space to accommodate more clients. Well, suddenly this goes up. Then you've probably got, if you're training more coaches, your certification costs go up. And you're probably going to have something like purchases, like, maybe you're buying more equipment to accommodate these people, right? So like your loan payment's going to go up. And what happens here is that while this staff person or collection of staff people are earning more, they're still only earning about the industry average, $44,000 a year. And you as the owner are only earning about $80,000 a year. So in this situation, you've almost doubled the number of clients that you have. You went from 122 to 200. So to stay there, you have to get about 10 new clients a month because you're losing about 10 clients a month due to churn. That's just to maintain. You have to have coaches who are willing to work for $22 an hour. You're going to have more space. You're going to have more equipment, and you're going to have to pay coaches to run more class times. Your total revenue is about $24,000 a month, and your total expenses are pretty close to that. So you're actually taking home about $6,600 a month, okay? Now, this sounds good on paper, but the reality is there are very few gyms out there who are actually successful at this model. In the CrossFit example, for instance, the gyms that were the first in a major metropolitan area, they were crushing it right off the bat, because if you get to call your name, CrossFit Miami, I'm just picking a random name, or CrossFit Portland, you've got a huge first mover advantage. You're going to quickly attract the early adopters in your market. And that's going to work for 3 to 5 years. But slowly there's going to be more gyms open around you. Slowly those early adopters are going to move on to other things. It's going to be harder to get clients. There's going to be more competition for them, less, just organic interest. You're going to have to work harder and harder. And so over time, what we find is that a lot of people who are the first in their cities, they use this model and it works. 3 to 5 years later, though, it doesn't work anymore and they're kind of panicking. So another alternative to this, if I go back to 122 and I go back to about 32 classes a week, A great alternative to this is to add a secondary revenue stream. And so, for example, one of the first things that we teach people is just to add an on-ramp. Some call it ramp up. I'm going to call it on-ramp for you though. That on-ramp should be about $300. Okay. Now, what you saw change there was a couple of things. Number one, the revenue, 300, not $30. Number one, the revenue went up quite a bit because you've got 5 new people paying $300. That's $1,500. Great. Number two, ARM went up. So it brought up the average that each client is paying. That's great. What's not in these numbers is that on-ramp is actually a barrier to exit. It doesn't stop people from joining. It stops people from quitting. And so you keep people around longer. So in reality, I should be fixing this retention rate, but I'm just going to keep things simple. The other cool thing that went up here is that now your coach is making a little bit more per month. They are making that 44% of the on-ramp price because they're doing the one-on-one on-ramping with clients. So they're making an extra $8,000 a year right there. Suddenly you've gone from a coach who's making like 21 a year to 29 a year without getting a single new client. All you're doing is replacing the 5 clients a month that are leaving with higher value clients coming in. None of these other things have changed. You're still paying your affiliation. You're still paying, the same amount of marketing. You're still paying in fact, you can drop that rent price back down. And in this model, suddenly the owner has gone to from really making nothing to making about $15,000 a year. Still not amazing, but better than it was. To really make more, there's a couple of levers that we can pull, right? But keep in mind, all we've done here is add an on-ramp and the owner is already making more money. The next thing, and so are the coaches, the next thing we want to do is say, well, what if we increased your membership by 10%, right? So now we went from 122 to 134. What happens now? Same low rates, 119. They're doing on-ramp. Okay, great. We're not adding all of these in a month, but your gross revenue has gone up pretty significantly. And if we scroll to the bottom, now the owner's up to $30,000 a year. Still not sustainable, but we're certainly on the right track. The next thing that we can do is add a secondary revenue stream. So what typically happens is when somebody does on-ramp, that's done one-on-one. And it's an introduction to your method. Here's how you do it. More than anything else, though, you're secretly building the exercise and nutrition habits for them. That's the point of on-ramp. And once they've got that habit, they can go into classes or they can stay one-on-one, and they're going to stick around longer because they have that habit now. You've coached them through the hard. So what typically happens is that your secondary revenue, personal training in this case, becomes worth about 10 to 20% of your other revenue. You add on 10 to 20% of your gross revenue just by offering that to people. You're not pushing it on anybody. You're not forcing people. What you're doing is you're saying, if you want to work out at my gym, but you don't want to work out in a group, I can do one-on-one with you. So in general, that adds about 20% of your gross revenue. Okay. So we can actually move that up to 20%. 18 is close enough. This is very common when gyms come into Two Brain. They get a few clients right off the bat. They add a personal training stream. They don't even raise their rates really yet. And they've jumped up in revenue quite a bit. And what's really interesting here is that now you've got a coach or maybe even 2 coaches getting a total of $50,488. One of those, could be the owner. And now the owner is taking home like $57,000 a year. They haven't raised their prices yet. All they've done is gain 10% more clients and added a personal training option. You're crazy not to do this. If there are people out there, and I know there are, who are saying, just do big group, our model is no personal training. You hear this from Fit Body Bootcamp, you hear this from F45, you hear it from CrossFit. That's not the model. The model is what will get my clients the best results. And often that's what will my clients do. And so you build your coaching model around what your clients want instead of the traditions of the method or whatever. Okay. So that's one thing. The next thing that a lot of people do is they might add a tertiary revenue model. So this would be they're going to add supplements or they're going to add retail. And this isn't big. It's usually going to be about $1,000 a month, And so they've got this third model. Actually, I guess it's going to be 2,000 in this case. So what we wind up with is actually this model, which is very, very common in the most successful Two Brain gyms. 70% of their revenue comes from group training or whatever their primary stream is. 20% comes from personal training, maybe nutrition coaching, one or the other. And 10% comes from maybe that's nutrition coaching, maybe it's retail, whatever that is. they've got a good, robust business. Because what happens is, if you've got personal training revenue of $4,000 a month, like those people don't take a break between Thanksgiving and New Year, right? So while membership might fluctuate, your personal training appointments generally don't. So what happens here is now we've got this person, okay, they're doing about $57,000 a year. And then we say, okay, well, let's actually look at like what your rates are. So in this first example, let's say that the rates just went up by 10%, to like 130. Now what happens is we've jumped revenue up by $10,000 a month. That's revenue by adding 12 clients and moving your membership price up by 10%, by adding an on-ramp, by offering personal training to the people who want personal training and don't want to exercise in a group, and potentially adding some retail and supplements so they don't have to walk down the road and buy it from the teenager behind the counter at GNC. Easy ads. Look what happens. Now our net owner benefit is at $74,000 a year. These are simple changes, and we're not asking you to put aside your philosophy of big group classes to do these things. Okay. So what I'd like to do is walk through a couple of business models that are working right now. And these are great starting points. Your mentor will customize the model to match you. Okay. So let's start off with the big group model and let's see what has to happen for the owner to make money. First model, just get more clients and you'll be fine. Well, I've taken the averages from State of the Industry, and the average membership price at a CrossFit gym, for example, is $109. That means, and the average coach pay is $22. They're running an average of 32 classes a week. What we have to keep in mind, though, is that as this number goes up, we're going to have to add classes. Okay. We're going to have to certify more coaches. Hopefully we don't have to add space, but we might have to. So let's take a look here. If I'm running with an average number of clients, 122, which is the coaching micro gym average, I can expect, this coach is actually losing money. Okay. Their coaches are making a little bit here, right? Like $21,000 a year. If this is a true owner operator model and you're paying yourself as a coach, that's how you break the difference. And you might even be profitable by $13,000. It's not enough, but you can do it. Then let's say, okay, well, all we're going to do here is we're going to add more clients. Now, keep in mind, there's already 122 people following your advice, doing exactly what you say here, and you're still not making money. Let's say that we bring that up to 150 and don't change anything else. We can cram those 150 into the 20 or 32 classes you're running a week. We don't need more coaches. We can pay the coaches $22 an hour and everybody's good with that, right? How much more can we make? Well, now you're making $27,500, okay? You're at 150 classes, which is more than the average gym has. You're still making $27,500 a year, and you're coaching almost every class yourself. Okay. You are paying a coach $21,000 a year, which is almost exactly what you're making. So you're probably going to have the temptation to just do everything yourself. So now you've got a business with 150 members that you're running every class. That's 32 classes a week, and trying to grow your business. You're going to burn out. Trust me, I've been there. Let's say that we add, 30 more clients by some miracle, or over 6 months, we just add 5 clients a month and now we're at 180. What happens? Well, our total revenue is up to almost $20,000. That seems like a big number. We're probably not going to be able to cram that many people into that many classes per week, not if they're coming on a regular basis. So you're probably going to have to increase the number of classes that you do. So expenses go up. Because now you've added like 50% more members, you are going to need some more equipment. And so, what do we do here? Here's the loan. We probably are going to take a loan. You're not going to have cash on hand to just pay for more equipment. So that loan's going to go up. And what we see is that you're paying $32,000 out in coaching costs because you've got so many classes, but you're taking $42,000 home. So now we have added 50% more members. We've gone from 122 to 180, and you're still making below the industry average. Okay. The problem is that as you add coaches, you're adding expenses, and you need to add coaches, yes, but you also need to improve ARM. However, let's keep going. How many people does this gym owner actually need if they want to make $100,000 a year? Okay, well, let's go up. Let's go to 210. We'll add another 30. Okay. Still paying my coaches the $22 a class, by the way. I'm going to have to add a few more classes again to get all these people in. probably going to have to buy a little bit more equipment. Here we go. So that brings that loan payment up again. I'm still not expanding my space, but I'm going to have to soon. Things are getting pretty tight. Well, now you've got a coach making $40,000 a year and you're making $61,000 a year. Okay, that's 210 members and you're still only making $60,000 a year. And here's what's scary. If you look at your monthly revenue at $23,140 and you look at your net owner benefit, what you're actually taking home, you're making about a 25% margin off 210 clients. If anything happens there, okay, so let's say now that one of these coaches says, I'm done making $22 an hour. I'm done coaching so many classes a week. I'm leaving and 30 clients are going with me. Well, you've just invested in more equipment. Now you've got all these classes and they've got 1 or 2 people in them, so you can't cancel them. You're still paying per class. What happens now? Well, your net owner benefit is cut like by more than half because you committed to all these other expenses. And this is what happens in that big group model a lot. You don't get to 300 and stay there. You get to 210 and drop to 180, or you get to 120 and you drop to 100. And this is the trap. So let's go back to the successful model. Let's say you've got 250 clients. Your average membership price is still only $109. You're still somehow managing to pay $22 a class. And you're still doing this on maybe 48 classes a week. You are crammed. Your lease hasn't gone up yet. You are going to have to buy more equipment. I guarantee it. But we'll keep it minimum. You got people sharing stuff. You got people exercising on the sidewalk. You haven't expanded yet. You haven't expanded your lease. Okay, well, what are we at? Finally, we're at 102. So the way that you make this work, using average numbers from across the entire world, across the entire industry, is you get 250 members. You get at least 25 new members every month because at a 5% churn rate, you're losing 25 members every month. So you have to get 25 just to replace them. Nobody's doing an on-ramp, so your churn is high. You're asking coaches to work for $22 a class. You're not expanding, so everybody's cramped. And now, yes, you are taking home $102,000 per year. Okay, so this model can work. You can do it with 250 members, and there are gyms out there who are doing it. If, for example, they wanted to pay their coaches a little bit more because they've only got one coach who's barely full-time on this model. They have no general manager. The owner is coaching a bunch of the classes themselves. If you want to do more, you got to increase your rates. So the next model that I'm going to talk about is where we increase rates by a little bit, where we increase client headcount up to 150. We hire more staff and pay them better, but we don't increase our other expenses. So here's a gym owner who came into Two Brain about 6 months ago. And right off the bat, they got some new members, which they were super stoked about. But before they even did that, they added an on-ramp program. So quickly, when they added that on-ramp, their revenue shot up to about $27,000. So from basically breaking even, potentially losing a little bit of money, now they're taking some money home. It's not enough, but it's a great start. The next thing that they did was they started adding clients. And so, we build and package an on-ramp to these clients, and then we start adding more clients. And so they started to climb up and, within 2 months, they had 135. Now, a gain of 12 clients net doesn't seem like a lot, but when you can do that consistently month after month, and again, it's net clients, not like how many clients they gained. This also accounts for how many they lose. As you do that month after month, your business starts to snowball up. So, step one, add an on-ramp. Step two, they started getting more clients. Well, look what happened. Suddenly they're making money. Now, this is a gym owner who had never made money before. They were, mission driven. They loved doing what they were doing, but, they were tired. He was tired of his wife having to do this other shift work job to support the family. He wasn't bringing anything home. He was getting exhausted and burnt out. The next thing that he did was actually just increase his rates for new clients coming in. Now, this 109 rate was way too low, but when he raised it up, new clients coming in started paying what they were actually worth. The other thing that happened was we just added the personal training option at the end of on-ramp, and we started selling some supplements in retail. That was literally it. From there, his average membership price started to go up as more of these new people joined. So first it went to 119 on average. Look what happens, 58,000, a decent income, right above the industry average. Then over time, as people were leaving at the old rate and coming in at the new rate, this average went up to 129. Great. Let's take a peek. 74,000 now. Okay. Then at 135, he made it his goal to get to about 150. And this took him about 13 months. Got to 150 clients. At that point, his average membership rate had gone up a little bit more. So I'm going to say it was like 135. He was ready to actually increase his rates on his previous members, but he was doing about 4,000 a month in personal training. He was doing about 2,000 a month in like retail. He started some nutrition coaching stuff too. Okay. And he was ready to make over $100,000 a year. Then he said, actually, I just want to pay my coaches more. I'm going to start there. Every gym owner I know is like, I want to pay my coaches more. So he moved the class rate up to 30. They were already making money from doing the personal training. So now you've got a coach person who's making about $59,000 a year. Then this owner said, I want to do two things. I want to raise the rates and get rid of the old discounts on the people who are underpaying. And I want to hire an admin. He did not like tracking his metrics. He was doing it, but he was not super thrilled about it. Okay. Notice that even through all of these changes, he did not have to increase his rent. He did not have to buy more equipment, because while he is adding people, he's not increasing the number of classes that he's doing a week. In fact, he probably went down to about 28 classes a week, but I'm going to leave that as is. So now we're at 150 clients. He gave all his coaches a raise up to $30. Not amazing, but way better than 22, above the industry average. He's bringing in 26,000 a month. Notice his ARM is way higher, and his coach is making about 2,400 a month in classes, 2,400 a month in doing personal training, and taking home about 60,000 a year, way better than most owners are doing. And now this owner is right at 100K a year. Okay, well, now what? Well, now the owner says, I'm doing it. I'm kind of living my perfect day here. I want to buy back some of my time, but I don't want to stop coaching. I love coaching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire like a CSM and somebody that's going to do the billing, the stuff that I hate. I'm not ready to hire a general manager yet, but I can pay somebody, $20 an hour for, I don't know, 10 hours a week, let's say. Okay. So $200 a week times 4 weeks is going to be about $800 a month. Okay. $9,600 a year. This is a part-time person. That's a great job. That brings his net owner benefit down to $89,000. Still absolutely fantastic. Then he says, well, okay, I've got this admin to help me. The CSM is checking in on people more, but it's really time to raise my rates. So he raised his rates by 10%. Okay. Now, even without gaining more clients, watch what happens. So now we're at 149. That's a 10% rate increase. The interesting thing about that rate increase is that there are no expenses attached to it. You don't have to buy more barbells to increase your rates. You don't need more space. You don't need more staff. It all drops straight to the bottom line, and boom, 113,690. Okay. You're a gym owner. I'm a gym owner. He's making more than he needs to make. His wife is thrilled. She's like giving up her career. What do you think he's going to do with that extra? He's going to invest it in more equipment, a bigger space. Maybe he's going to buy a building. He's going to start investing in it, right? And that's what's really important here. So this second model was very simply get to 150 clients, paying just $150 a month, which is still low, by the way. Maintain his current retention rate. He didn't even fix that. Add an on-ramp, offer personal training to those who want it, offer nutrition coaching or supplements or retail to those who want that. Pay his coaches even better. He gave them all a raise. He hired a CSM and admin to do his like bookkeeping and client check-ins for him. And he's still making this much money. Most gym owners that I know would say, let's go, let's double down, let's open another gym, let's buy a competitor, let's, invest in buying the building. And that's up to him. The third case study I want to share with you is a woman who was doing personal training in her own space. She was paying $3,000 a month for that. She was doing some pretty heavy marketing to get clients, but basically just like trusting an ad agency to do that for her because she didn't have time. And here's why. You'll see it. She's got 50 personal training clients, and they were all doing 1 hour sessions with her. They were paying $70 a session and doing about one a week each because that's all she could fit them in for. She was not paying anybody to help her. Like she was doing all these herself. And when she was coming in, she was only earning about $39,000 a year. Now that's not bad, but the reality is like, that's a lot of work to earn that kind of money. And so her goals were twofold. Number one, she wanted to make more money to support her family. And number two, she wanted to work less. She thought she was working way too much. So the first thing that we did was we said, well, let's start by moving people into a semi-private or small group model. And so the approach that she took with her clients was, do you want to come twice as often for just a little bit more money? So instead of paying $280 a month, and by the way, she was selling these in packages of like 10 or 20 sessions. So some of these people were paying discounts. Some of them owed her money. Cash flow was a nightmare. So she wasn't actually even taking that much money out of her business. She was trying to collect from people. Nobody wants to do that. So the first thing that we did was we moved to a semi-private model where people could come twice a week for $399. She gave everybody that option. And when people started to take it, she said, I'm not doing any more one-on-one. She was done. So she lost a few clients, and that's okay. What you can see, though, is that her revenue per month went way up, and her take home actually increased quite a bit. It almost doubled, right? So now she's at $70,000 a year, almost $6,000 a month. Well, that's good. $70,000 a year is certainly better than 35, 39, but she's still working quite a bit. And so she said, well, now what do I do? Like, I'm coaching a little bit less because even when people are coming twice a week, there's 4 of them. So, it's like half as much, but I still don't want to coach all this amount. So what we said was, well, let's pay somebody to take 20 of those clients. And so, or maybe they're just going to do like 20 classes a week or whatever. You're going to have to pay them $50 for each one to do that. And so what that did was obviously it added, quite a bit of expenses to her, about $800 per month. And it brought her net owner benefit down to 60. But now what that did is it bought her 4 classes in one day. Like, it bought her back her Fridays. So now she could spend her Fridays working on growing the business with her mentor. So now she can go back and she can say, okay, well, let's actually look at getting more clients. She started getting more clients, right? So she added 10, and let's take a look at what this does to her bottom line. Now she's at 107 again. Okay, well, let's buy myself back a little bit more time. Okay, let's pay a coach to take 10 more of these. Okay, back down to 75. But this is how you ratchet things up. So first you improve your AR, right? And you improve your value to the client so that you can charge more. You do that by adding an on-ramp. In this case, she moved to semi-private. We've got different ways to do this. You could do it by adding a secondary service or whatever. Then you look at, do I have the time to actually grow my business? If you do, great, start adding clients. If you don't, then you have to buy some help. Another way that she could have gone here, if she wasn't training so much, is instead of hiring a part-time coach, she could have just hired, for example, like a cleaner, a social media person, an admin. If she really wanted to coach 50 sessions a week, she could have hired somebody else to help her with these other things and, still grown her business. Anyway, here's the key. Look, there are a lot of ways to grow a business. But the way that you don't grow a business is by guessing, by just assuming that getting more members is going to get you more money, or by just saying, I don't care about the money, or by not paying attention to your metrics. Those are the things that shrink the business. Your number one priority as a CEO is to learn how to run a business. Getting your 5th level degree or your master's or your PhD in fitness is not going to help you run a better business. As soon as you open a business, you are the CEO, and it's immediately your responsibility to grow that business. How do you measure growth? By what you actually earn. That's the ultimate measuring stick. It's not how many members you have or even how much revenue you do. As you saw in that last example, you don't need crazy revenue to take home really great profits. The key is knowing which levers to pull, how the math works, how an S&P operates. And so we're a mentorship practice because we don't want to force one model on anybody. We never say the big group model won't work. We never say one-on-one personal training won't work. Instead, we say, here's how that can work for you. And we tell them the metrics that they have to make it work. And then we guide them to take the steps to change their metrics to the ones that work. That's what mentorship is. That's what running a profitable gym is. This is Run a Profitable Gym. I'm Chris Cooper. And hey, thanks for doing math with me.